Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV and we are back with another Amazon haul. This is a series where I go out on Amazon and look for gadgets that you have not heard of before that might actually be a little bit useful. So hopefully we've got a few in the box today. In my last one of these, I did a lot of Apple-centric products. We only have 2 Apple-centric devices this time, and they're going to be done together because they are very similar to each other. The rest can be used by anybody. So stay tuned. We got a lot of neat stuff to take a look at here. But before we open up the box, or at least take stuff out of it, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that most of the items in the box here came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. And a few of these came in directly from the manufacturer, like this Minix box here that you'll see in a minute. No other compensation was received. Nobody has reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded, and all the opinions you're about to hear are my own, and there will be many opinions. Let's get into this box now and see what we have inside. All right, this first item is a Wavelink Thunderbolt hard drive enclosure. This will not work on USB 3 computers, but if you have a USB 4 computer, it will work because USB 4 is backwards compatible to Thunderbolt. By the way, I've got a link to this and all of the other products we're looking at today, along with their prices, in the affiliate link down below. So check it out to get the current pricing on everything, because these prices change all the time. Now, this does not come with the hard drive. You have to supply your own. So that's always a pretty helpful thing. This is what it looks like when it's all assembled here. A little bit earlier, I did do an assembly, because that does take a little bit of time here. You can see how it's constructed. You do have to pull the entire motherboard out. And as you can see, the cable there is actually a cable that connects to a connector inside, but you can't get to that connector unless you unscrew everything. They also give you a screwdriver in the box. As you saw, there is a red heat sink that you can kind of see through the venting holes here for the NVMe drive, but it's otherwise fanless and silent. So why don't we plug this in to a mini PC that has a USB 4 connector on board, and let's see how it performs with this Sabrent Rocket NVMe inside. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like this is going to make the cut. I cannot get this enclosure to work on anything that I've plugged it into over the last 45 minutes here. That includes a Mac and 2 different PCs, including PCs equipped with Thunderbolt ports and USB 4 ports. I even swapped out the NVMe that I had initially installed, which was a PCI Express 4 device, for a PCI Express 3 device that I know to be working in another enclosure. All I get on the circuit board here is a green light, but nothing is mounting on the host computer. So it looks like I gained maybe a Thunderbolt cable out of the deal, but I would suggest you skip the Wavelink. Let's see if we have better luck with our next item. All right, this next item is a video capture card, and of course these are a dime a dozen these days on Amazon. But for the most part, these generic capture cards can only do 4K at 30 frames per second max, if that. This one claims, for its low price, that it can do 60 frames per second. And I haven't seen something like this at this price point before, so we're going to take a look at it. Now, I want to add a bit of a caution here, given what we just experienced with our drive enclosure. If you are doing mission-critical work where people are paying you to do video streaming or capturing or whatever, going with the lowest cost streaming device is never a good idea. So this would be for non-mission critical applications, or if you're doing something yourself and you're on a very tight budget. Otherwise, spend a little bit of extra money and get the Blackmagic stuff or something equivalent that will deliver you known quality. We don't know what the long-term use case is going to be for this one. It might work fine for the few minutes we'll be testing it here, but down the road it might be problematic. Now, you do get an HDMI cable in the box, which is nice to see. And you've got this nice thick USB cable. And this is a USB-C to USB-A cable. So if you were going full-on USB-C, you would need to get your own cable there. And then, of course, you've got your product manual. This is a product from a company called Kuhaim, I guess. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So what I'm going to do now is run some 60 frames per second 4K video out of this mini PC into my production laptop that I use for field work when I do it from time to time. And let's see if this capture card can indeed capture 60 frames per second at 4K. Stand by. All right, we've got everything up and running now. This mini PC is outputting 4K 60 video confirmed by Windows via this HDMI cable into the capture device. This cable here is the loop out, which is going back to my 4K monitor here. and I can confirm there isn't any noticeable latency here, so if you were looking to do game capture, it should be fine. It is pretty much a loop out and not going through any processing. Here I've got a Thunderbolt cable, but right now it's just working as a USB cable, and this is getting plugged into my production laptop here for capturing. Now I run vMix, which is a great piece of production software, and it looks a little jittery here just because I'm capturing the production laptop's footage or screen here at 30 frames per second, but I can confirm it is smooth on the screen. And as you can see, the default setting here is 4K. It is using NV12 for the video codec or processing there, and it's getting 60p. Now, when I go into the statistics on vMix, though, I see something I see on many of these cheap capture cards, which is that we are dropping a lot of frames. I'm not necessarily noticing this on screen, but vMix doesn't lie. So on my production computer where I am running with a Blackmagic capture card, I rarely see a drop frame. Here we're getting a lot of them, as you can see. So this is definitely working as other cheap capture cards do. You may not notice those drop frames, but they are there, and it's not something that I'm going to recommend here for hardcore production work. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it has the horsepower to keep up with 4K 60 video. So once again, you get what you pay for when you're shopping for cheap streaming devices. It will capture 4K 60, but it's not going to capture all the frames. And if you're okay with that, then I guess it's a pretty good deal for what it can do. But I think for most production professionals, they're going to want something a little more reliable. Boy, we are really striking out today. Let's hope this one does a little better. This is the Czur Touchboard Pro, and I am a sucker for these all-in-one portable keyboards that have an integrated tracking mechanism on board. Now, my favorite keyboard of this type is this TrackPoint keyboard that I got in free of charge from Lenovo a number of years ago. I love this thing. It is a ThinkPad keyboard that works on your lap. You got the tracking nub here. The keys are awesome. It's a full-on ThinkPad keyboard here, but it is portable. It works with Bluetooth and with a USB dongle, and you can switch between the two of them. This one is only Bluetooth, and it's from a company that you may have heard from before because they make these interesting book scanners, and it looks like they're getting into other products. The build quality on this is not good. It is plastic, even though it looks like metal, so it's got kind of a cheap feel to it. The trackpad will actually make a clicking sound even when you flex the keyboard, so we're not off to a good start here. The keyboard apparently is not backlit. The keys are small, they're chiclet sized, but they're nicely spaced, so at least initially, typing on it doesn't feel constrained as much as I thought it might be when I first took a look at this thing. And what I'm going to do is power it up and pair it up with the mini PC here, and I will give you my impressions of it. All right, we are up and running here, but unfortunately I'm not crazy about what I'm seeing. The precision on the trackpad isn't all that great. One other issue I have with it is that it has tap to click enabled, which means that you can register mouse clicks without actually pushing down on the trackpad, just by lightly tapping it, and there's no way to turn that off. Another oddity is that if I just tap with 2 fingers, I get a right click, but if I push down with 2 fingers, I don't. So if you want to use a physical click, you have to click on the right side of the trackpad to get the right click. You can't just push 2 fingers down to get it. And as you can see there, it just accidentally registered a scrolling mechanism, even though that was not my intent. So it's not great here at trying to interpret or assume what the user is doing. It does, though, seem to support gestures on Windows here, so I can zoom in and out with 2 fingers, but I'm not able to scroll side to side here, so it's pretty limited in what it can do. I can do a pinch to zoom here as well, but again, it's not all that great. So, it's okay, I guess, but there are certainly better ones out there. We're going to keep trying, though, to find something useful. Let's take a look at the next item. Now, one of my favorite mini PC brands is Minix, and they also have some accessory items that they sent over to the show, in full disclosure. And these are their C1 and H1 1080p wireless video dongles. And I thought we'd try these out just to see how they work, and I'll open up both of them. We're only going to test one of them because they do perform identically from what I can read. But one of these is designed for an HDMI output, and the other is designed for computers that have a full-service USB-C port on board that supports display output. So what I'm going to do here is plug one of these into my mini PC here, the USB-C one, and transmit across the room to where my ham radio setup is with a display and see if it can do that. These little dongles are often helpful for when you've got projectors in the room. And now that the iPhone supports USB-C video output, you can use this with the iPhone and any compatible Android devices. So I'm just going to plug this in here, and this should show up as another display. And once the other side gets connected here, we'll see how everything works, but you can see that it did detect another display getting plugged in, and we've got a blink going on there. So let me go take the receiving unit and plug it in on the other end and see what we get. Now before I run over there, I did want to show you what the receiving unit looks like. It is a cable that has a USB connector on one end and an HDMI on the other. So the HDMI you plug into the display or projector that you are sending video to, and then you have to connect this to some USB power source. But even like a phone charger should work just fine. So let me go over there and plug it in and let's see what happens. All right, it looks like we've got it working here. I am projecting my screen in a mirrored configuration from one end of the room to the other. I did find that the order of operations here should be that the receiver is plugged in first and then you plug the transmitter in. With the transmitter plugged in first, the receiver didn't see anything until I unplugged it and plugged it back in again, but now as you can see, it is working. And if it's blurry, it's just due to my camera. I think it's in focus, but it keeps going in and out here. But let me show you the latency, because this is one area that you will see some issues with if you're trying to do some gaming. So the upper image there is the output to the monitor, and what you see on the right-hand side is what's coming out on the other end. So this is going to be fine for presentations or if you're watching videos or something, but if you're trying to play games, it will be difficult because there is some latency here introduced, but it's not that expensive and it's pretty simple to operate. So I think we've got at least one thing here that I'm comfortable recommending. Let's see what else we got. All right, here's another Minix accessory. This is their 6-in-1 GAN power strip. This is a 67-watt USB-C travel charger. And let's take it out of the box here and see what we get. Now, what's neat about this one is that in addition to getting two USB-C outputs and a USB-A output, you also have 3 AC outlets, one that is grounded here at the top and 2 on the side. And in addition, it's got a little display on here to give you an indicator of how much power is going through the device. Now, the USB ports will share that 67 watts, and based on what you have plugged in, will determine how much power you get out of each port. So if you just plug your computer into this port and nothing else, you'll get the full 67. But if you have 2 devices plugged in here, it gets you 45 watts here and the balance out of there. And then, of course, the 10 or 12 watts you get out of the USB-A port. The AC ports here, though, are not restricted. So you can get, they say, up to about 1,200 watts out of those. Let me just plug it in real quick and see what the display looks like. All right, I've got a dead iPad here, so why don't we plug into the first port that gives us the most power. And the display is hard to see under my camera lights, but it is there. It is a bit dim, but right now it looks like it's getting about 4 watts out of there. Very, very dim, actually. If I cup my hand over it, you can actually see it, but it is not very bright. So it does seem to work. A nice little power adapter that's pretty portable. What I like about it, too, is that it has a round flat connector here, so it's easy to get behind furniture and stuff too if you're having trouble finding a useful outlet when you're out on the road. Now, I have a similar charger that I really like quite a bit. I reviewed this a while back. This is a charger from a company called Oremo, and I'll put a link to this in my master list as well. This one delivers 120 watts. You got 3 USB-C ports here, a USB-A, and then you've got 2 grounded outlets on it. It too has a nice long cable and a flat plug, and this has become my go-to travel charger. I take this everywhere with me. It's one of my favorite travel devices right now. All right, let's take a look and see what else I got. All right, keeping on the charging theme here, this is a multi-device charger from a company called Soidec. And this is, not a fast charger, but if you've got a lot of devices in the house that you're charging overnight or in a school or something, this might be useful. So this will deliver 100 watts spread across these 10 USB outlets. 2 of them support Quick Charge 3.0, but the rest charge at about 10 watts or so, 5 volts, 2 amps. So not terribly fast, from a charging perspective. It does have a nice big power brick here, but you know, this is going to be useful down here in the studio because I have a ton of little phones and tablets that constantly are not getting charged because I forget to put them on the charger, and they all run down eventually, like that iPad I was just looking at. I don't use them all that often, but when I need them, they don't work. So I think what I might do here is set this up and just keep those devices topped off. And what you got here, in addition to all of the ports, is these little dividers that you can set up to give everyone their own little border here. So I can put my iPad in there, I can set up another one next to it and just kind of go down the line. And I can adjust the thickness of this based on the devices that I'm putting in place. And as you can see, each one of these little slits, you can put one of these things in. So not a great charger, but useful in the sense that you can do a lot of devices overnight or keep them topped off. It's plastic, it doesn't feel all that great, but it's useful, and I think it'll have some purpose down here in the studio. Now, these next two items are the only Apple-specific devices we're looking at today, and we're looking at them together. This is the SambaPad Ultar 3-in-1 wireless charger, and this is a nifty little wireless charger called the 3-in-1 that comes from some unknown Chinese manufacturer. And what's cool about this travel one is that you can lay it flat. It folds up pretty nicely here for going in your bag. But when you get to where you're going, you can basically set up your phone like so and push out the watch charger here. And if I connect it up to some USB power here, I can connect everything together and charge here. So why don't we do that real quick. I'll attach my watch here. That is charging. You may not be able to see that in this view, but on the back there you can see that. And if I grab my phone and pop it on the charger here, I'll get that neat clock look here once it comes together. It does bounce around a little bit, but if you're traveling, who cares, right? And then down here, you've got a spot to charge your AirPods or another Qi-compatible device. Now, you can lay this flat also if you want, but I think it's pretty useful if you are traveling to get all this in one nice little unit here. It won't charge all that fast, but it will get you charged up overnight and get you a little alarm clock here as well. Now, the other one is more of a nightstand thing, and there goes my, my little phone grip thing. This is more of a nightstand kind of scenario. This one's a lot heavier, which is good because it doesn't slide around all that much. And what this one will do when you get it set up is you can lift this part up here and then do this with it. And when you do that, you can put your phone here and charge up your AirPods underneath it here. So those are charging. And I got to just dismiss this phone call real quick. I can put my phone on the charging pad here. It is Magsafe, but it doesn't grab all that tightly. And we're good to go there. And then the watch charger here will lift up, and I can attach it that way. So there we go. We've got ourselves two different Apple charging scenarios here. One for the nightstand, and this is pretty nice, not all that expensive, and one that you can travel with. Let's take a look at the next item. Now, a few months ago, I did a video about these generic displays that you can connect to your vehicle and get CarPlay and Android Auto if your vehicle doesn't support those things. And they're all pretty much the same. They just have different manufacturers stuck onto the boxes. This one, though, I got from Czur, and the reason why I was attracted to it is that it's relatively small and you can more easily transport this in between vehicles. So if you are traveling and you wanted to make sure that whatever car you rent has some kind of CarPlay or Android Auto solution, this one might be easier to walk around with. Unfortunately, every time I get one of these in, within a few weeks, they're no longer available. So I would be on the lookout for something that looks like this from the product photos, because I would imagine there are probably dozens of companies that sell the exact same product, just with a different sticker on the box. Now, what makes this one portable is that it actually comes with a suction cup arm here, so you're not just stuck sticking it to your dashboard. You can actually take it with you when you leave the vehicle. But there's also a more traditional dashboard mount here that sticks physically to your dashboard. This one also came with a cigarette lighter adapter plug here that goes out to USB-C, and that's how you power it. And then in here is a little camera, backup camera, that plugs into the AV port on the back of the display here. So this one's pretty nice, and hopefully it comes back in stock. But let me boot it up here real quick and see how it works. All right, we're going to pair up my Android phone to it first. I've got the Google Pixel 8a phone that I reviewed the other day, which in full disclosure came in free of charge from Google. If I go over to the display here, you can see I have an auto option. So if I tap on auto, what I can do here is actually mirror the screen. I'm assuming that's a mirror casting feature, or I can switch it into auto mode, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to click on auto here, and now it's telling me to connect to CarKit A442 via Bluetooth. So let's go back to the phone. We'll click on pair new device, and there is CarKit A442. So I'll tap on that, and hopefully it will connect here. Let's see, and we'll click on pair, and it's connecting. And I have to allow it some access here because it will, of course, be making use of those CarPlay features, or Android Auto features in this case. Now, this is not going to be transmitting any information out to the internet. It's strictly a Bluetooth connection between this and the phone. But I'm going to go here and give it all the permissions that it needs. So we'll click on continue here, and we will be good to go. So here we are. We've got ourselves an Android Auto interface here. I can load up my YouTube music if I wanted to, so I'm pretty much good to go here. And this appears to be working. I don't have any signal down here, which is why we're not seeing anything on screen. One of the things that I learned from the prior screen that we looked at is that your Wi-Fi gets disabled when you enable the Android Auto feature, but it is working. We've got the interface, and I'm pretty confident we would be able to do all of the things that we can do with Android Auto. Let's take a look and see if CarPlay works with it. All right, I got CarPlay working now on it. It seems to be working just fine. A little on the sluggish side perhaps, but usable, especially if you were just using this to jump into a rental car or something. The apps all seem to work here. I have the same problem with the iPhone that I did with the Android, which is that I don't get any signal down here, but you can see the interface is working as advertised. Now, the way audio pipes through this is that the phone's audio is going to the display, not to the car, and so it will play audio out of its really awful tinny speaker. I did play back something a few minutes ago. It did not sound all that great. Or you can use the audio output here and plug it in with a 3.5mm cable into the car's audio system if the car has that. Chances are the car that you're using this with likely has that option. Now, there is an option to disconnect the audio portion of the Bluetooth connection from the display and have it go to the car instead. And I covered how that works in my review of the other display that I looked at. This one seems to be performing and behaving exactly the same. So I would imagine there's probably only 1 or 2 factories in China that actually make these things, but you can get one, and they're relatively affordable and do seem to work well enough. All right, we've reached the end here. I got one more thing to take a look at in the box. This is a mouse pad that lights up, but it also has a Qi charger on the end of it. There is no way to control the lighting from the computer that it's connected with, but you can control it with a button on there. And let's flip it over here and see what it looks like. It is rather big. In fact, it's larger than my desk can fit at the moment here. But as you can see here, we've got ourselves a Qi charger on the end of it. Let me get this plastic peeled off, plug it in, and let's see if it works. All right, so I've got it plugged in now, and right now it's on its little oscillating mode. Here's some B-roll of it fully stretched out in a dark room so you can get a feel for what it looks like. It's a little brighter towards the top here, and that's where the light source originates, but it does seem to work as advertised. And if I put my phone down on top here, it will start charging. So the Qi charger part works. It's a very large charging pad. They probably could have set it to charge multiple items, but it's only one device at a time here. And then if I push the button on the top, it will rotate through different options. So you have different colors, it will pulsate, but there's no way to quickly jump to the color you want. You have to go through the whole thing until you get to what you're looking for. So no computer control, but it does light up. Now this is a little thicker than some of the other gaming mouse pads that I've looked at. This is all rubber on the back, and you've got the nice surface here on the top. Feels good as mouse pads go, I guess. The only thing that I noticed is that when they glued on the Qi portion here, they didn't apply it evenly. So as you can see here, it kind of juts out a little bit and then goes back in. So it doesn't look perfect. I think they could have spent a little bit more time in QA getting that part correct, but otherwise it feels like a decent mouse pad. So that is going to do it for this Amazon haul. Kind of an eclectic mix of stuff, and not all of it was good this time. But you all seem to enjoy these, and I like making them, and these videos as one big clump of items does better than individual ones, so that's what we're going to keep doing until you're sick of seeing it. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below, and until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Budley, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Steve Green, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.